Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, welcome to this panel on the relations between the European Union and Turkey. Over the years, Turkey has played an important role as a strategic partner to Turkey, in particular in areas such as migration, security, and trade. But the path towards EU membership, it seems that faces significant challenges. Today, with our esteemed speakers, who I'm very proud of, for every one of them, we will try to see the opportunities, the challenges, and the implications that define the current affairs between the European Union and Turkey. We'll start with Angelina Eichhorst, Ambassador, Managing Director of the European External Action Services. Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Elena Lazarou is next to her, Head of the External Policies Unit at the European Parliamentary Research Services. Welcome, Elena. Nice to have you. Nilgun Eralp, Director at the European Union Studies Center in Turkey. Thank you so much for being with us, Nilgun. Ioannis Grigoriadis is next to her, Assistant Professor at the Department of Political Sciences at Bilkent University and Research Fellow at ELIAMEP. Ioannis, thank you. Ioannis will be the moderator on the next two panels in Turkey, so you will have the chance to enjoy him after our panel. And Ahmet Eralp Öztürk, Associate Professor in Politics and International Relations at in London at the Metropolitan University is with us. Thank you, Ahmet. Thank you so much. Angelina, before we go to Turkey, let's take advantage of your presence here and talk about the developments in the Middle East. How is the EU watching the developments in the Middle East and the concerns of the West of maybe Iran is launching an attack in Israel?
Well, thanks. First, I'm happy to be on the panel with you, with all the speakers. We will do Turkey in a second. On your question, the machine is working, right? The whole diplomacy is working right now. You can see it. Somebody else said on a panel, don't go too much on about headlines of what Iran would do or other. Let us look what is underneath. We still work on the fact that the major players do not want to see a major escalation. So we have to really, really keep that together. I can only say that there's, for the moment, as you know very well, there's a lot of work going on with the key actors. I'm always, I always feel that, particularly for the Middle East, I mean, that is actually the region. And if I just go up East Med and include also Turkey straight up and also Greece, the whole region as such has such a huge potential. We've been trying to work out a strategy to work from conflict to cooperation, right, in the whole region. Many would say, this is just dreaming on, but I still think we have to continue to invest in this as much as possible and not to go further into escalation, but surely in trying to contain.
Is the EU involved in these talks behind the scenes?
There are many talks also from the EU side. Certainly a number of member states are up front for the reasons you know all well. And it is not true that somebody else said on another panel, EU is completely irrelevant in all of this. I'm sorry, not really, because in fact the EU has a lot to offer, and particular also when, there's one element that needs to be worked on the political process. I mean, we know the ceasefire, the hostage-free ceasefire, humanitarian assistance, but then really on the political process, this is a key role for the European Union to work on in the future.
Mm-hmm. Now in Turkey, it takes two to tango, as they say in my hometown Lamia, nearby. So between Turkey and EU, it seems that we have the two with reluctant pace. Who doesn't want to dance? Who wants to take steps but is reluctant, hesitating? Is it a state that maybe both of them are happy?
Maybe the music is not good enough to dance on.
Who is playing the music?
Good. Look, I've been now for the last 9 years, I work on EU-Turkey relations in Brussels. My first point for today is I'm really not so happy not to see my colleagues from the Turkish Foreign Ministry and from the administration this time in Delphi. They all told me they wanted to come, but for some other reasons. It's always good to have colleagues who work on the files with you as well, particularly at this point in time. The list of grievances is very, very long. And obviously, the way we try to work is to look ahead to the future, forward-looking. And that's what we also try to do now with the European Council coming up next week. So the whole machinery is working around a strategic discussion among the leaders between EU and Turkey, the relationship.
So we will have new developments? Something will come up?
Conclusions coming. Look, as a Brussels official, I've learned
to
never try to foretell what the leaders are going to decide. It's
entirely
up to them.
You worked on the preparation and the papers.
Yeah, a lot. We prepared a report for the leaders last November, the High Representative Borrell, the Commission. I think it was a pretty good picture of what is the potential of the relationship, where are also the pitfalls, where are the challenges. Now the point is, can we, let's call it this transitional period we have also geopolitically, can we actually feed toward a more mutually beneficial relationship? You know, I'm not even talking about accession, although I'm happy to come back to it, but at least to have a relationship which is it's a bit more foretelling, and you can actually predict between each other what we expect from each other, because there is a lot of, Turkey is a very important player, strategic player, globally now also, not just in the region. Yeah. This is a fact. European Union is as well, it's a fact. We need each other, right? So this, we have to see how it will go next week.
What you're saying right now is that, and it is breaking news, it's like, to some extent, it's that it's the best case scenario that we have during the last years for EU in Turkey.
No, the breaking news would be is that the leaders acknowledged the importance of having this strategic relationship mutually beneficial. But that is not breaking, honestly, because all of the member states know this very well. All of the member states, and I really say all.
Elena, on the tango between the two, who doesn't want to dance?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I'm glad to be here. It is not for me to say who doesn't want to dance, and by the way, thank you for revealing my title, but I'm here as Senior Fellow at ELIAMEP, so everything I say is nothing to do with the European Parliament. Perhaps what I will say, picking up on what Angelina has said, especially looking at the report of last fall, is that there are many new dances to dance. And the reason why there are new dances to dance beyond the tango is because we are in a new geopolitical environment. So the agenda is changing. The agenda of enlargement, the frozen agenda of enlargement, the problematic and perhaps to be revitalized agenda of customs union modernization, the migration agenda, they're still there. But I would say that ever since Russia's war on Ukraine was launched, ever since we have the absolute destabilization of the Middle East, in the face of the upcoming US elections and US-China rivalry and a potential even more important US pivot to the Indo-Pacific, we have a new agenda for EU-Turkey relations. It's not because we decided that we do, it's because the geopolitics have brought it about. The multilateral institutions are in a moment where they're very challenged in implementing their missions. So for the EU, the dance is now not just its traditional dance. You probably have those in Lamia as well. It's more a new dance which has to do with the geopolitical EU that President von der Leyen had announced, which, by the way, I think in the next commission we will see coming back reinforced, potentially with a commissioner for defense, potentially with a bigger budget. It's geopolitical. It's vital, so it's strategic, because it's about security in the EU's immediate neighborhood. And here I want to refer to the Middle East that we talk a lot about here, but also the southern neighborhood and Africa. And in all this, there is a realization that pragmatism needs us to dance with Turkey. And I think from Turkey's point of view, and we'll see that, I guess, from our colleagues from Turkey, there is a similar realization that in the context of Turkey's strategic autonomy foreign policy, it cannot face these challenges alone. So partnership becomes a dance that's needed to dance. Now, of course, there is a bit of a flirtation and there is a bit of a, ignoring or sort of trying to be the upper hand. But I would say that there are incentives on both sides to work together on these new dances. I think Turkey has shown that it wants to join a lot of the EU's defense initiatives, and maybe we can talk about this a lot later because I think it's a carrot that will come up a lot. I think the EU realizes, and especially Turkey's role in the Russia-Ukraine war as a mediator, both in terms of grain issues, but also in the beginning for the ceasefire, the attempt, that the mediator role that Turkey can play, potentially also in the Caucasus, also at the moment we don't see eye to eye, is also important. And let's not forget Turkey, Somalia, let's not forget the Horn of Africa, let's not forget the Gulf of Aden. So I think those new elements of steps in the dances can mean both want to dance.
Thank you. Nilgun, talk to us about the this transition from membership to partnership, and what was the turning point after the negotiation started and we are at this point today?
Turkey is a unique case because the negative turning point came into being after the initiation of negotiations. I think the main turning point was Gezi protest in Turkey that was suppressed with a disproportionate force. Then Turkey started to be referred as strategic partner. But both sides made serious mistakes after the initiation of negotiations. Turkey, the administration in Turkey instrumentalized the accession process to get rid of military tutelage. But it was replaced by a civilian tutelage instead of democratic consolidation. EU is not impeccable either because accepting Cyprus as a member without a settlement on the island, then giving permission to leaders like Sarkozy, excluding Turkey on an identity basis, also giving permission to some countries, blocking some negotiation chapters without being based on any EU decision, and finally turning a blind eye to what's going on inside Turkey because of realpolitik issues like the refugee deal. These were the mistakes of the EU. But as I said, the real turning point was in 2013 during the Gezi protests. Turkey started to be referred as strategic partner, and then came the coup attempt in Turkey, followed by a serious crackdown by the government. So there was a serious backsliding in democracy, rule of law, and fundamental freedoms after the coup attempt. And the final point was the installment of the executive presidential system in Turkey that removed all the checks and balances when we have become a country ruled by just one man. These were the main turning points in the relationship. And maybe I'll talk about it later, but I don't think that Turkey is being regarded as a strategic partner by the EU
I will come
either.
in a minute to you. Let's go to Elena. Elena, talk to us about this partnership and the current geopolitics. What's the impact of the current geopolitics on the EU and Turkey?
As I said before, I think strategic partnership is a concept that the EU has played with for a very long time, and no one can tell you really what it means. But in fact, I think in the very easy layman's terms, it means when you can have a cooperation that serves mutual interests, and for the EU, that serves its interests. Now, as I said, the geopolitics are demanding in many ways that the EU engage in a strategic way with its regional partner, with its regional powers, those that are to some degree like-minded, and Turkey is one of them. And what it means essentially, I think, is that there is an agenda to be explored on the basis of the Borrell paper of last fall, which, with the phase, proportionate, reversible, etc. caveats, but there is an agenda to be explored on the traditional topics, trade, migration, and security, but also beyond that in new areas. What I can say, of course, that there's conditions there, and here I don't mean the conditions related to enlargement, but I really mean the conditions related to, for a partner to be strategic, there has to be a degree of alignment of interests and a degree of alignment of values. And what we're seeing in the recent reports on Turkey is there is actually a degradation of alignment of interests. We are at a historical low of about 8%, I think, of alignment of Turkey with the CFSP. We recently saw it in the 13th package of sanctions on Russia, that Turkey is host to entities that are circumventing the sanctions, including by providing Russia with semiconductors and other technology that is critical to the Russian military. And of course, there are other areas in which CFSP does not align with Turkey, and this includes Azerbaijan, Armenia, and now Gaza. So there are common interests in securitizing the common neighborhood. I mean, let's think of the Red Sea. Both Turkey and the EU it's critical that navigation continue. So that area is critical, Africa is critical, but at the same time, there needs to be that alignment of interests and behavior for a strategic partnership.
Let's go now to Ioannis and Ahmet, two people that have a good picture of what's happening in Turkey. Ioannis, give us your take as far as how the society understands this process and the strategic partnership between EU and Turkey.
Well, what we follow over the last years is that a very significant part of Turkish public opinion remains in favor of closer relations, but has gone very pessimistic about any significant progress towards membership. So in that respect, they understand that closer relations with the European Union are going to improve the welfare of the country. And they also understand that closer relations with the European Union may bring the political reform that was so important 20 years ago when things in the bilateral relationship were going in a completely different direction. And we had witnessed a brief period of optimism about democratic consolidation in Turkey. Unfortunately, we're in a very different position now. And I do think that Gezi and what has transpired ever since, democratic backsliding in Turkey, has made it clear that the European Union is the only international player who could have an interest in how Turkish domestic political affairs develop. Over the last few years, unfortunately, there is a disappointment of this level as well. Why? Because the relationship has shifted from being a value-based relationship to a transactional one. Like, there are deals. The migration deal is a good example for that. So many Europeans may see Turkey as a buffer zone between the migrants and their waves coming from Afghanistan, from Syria, from all the sort of crisis zones of the Middle East and beyond. And they're willing to engage in a relationship whereby the Turkish government is receiving aid in return for keeping these people there, and so that they don't reach the Greek or the Bulgarian or border or go further into the European Union. Of course, this appears to be reducing the prestige and the image of the European Union within the Turkish public opinion, particularly among those segments of the Turkish public opinion who are more pro-European. And they used to see Europe as an ally in their struggle for political reform and democratic consolidation in Turkey. So we're in such a situation whereby relations remain important, even on the transactional level. These are very important issues, and nobody can afford ignoring each other on this. The question is whether there will be a political environment amenable to an upgrade of the relationship. And of course, this has to do a lot with what happens within Turkey, but also what happens within the European Union, what sort of EU election results we're going to have, whether the agenda in the European Union turns more inward or outward, or whether it's more optimistic about the future of Europe, and then Europe is willing to open and take maybe some risks and expect benefits, instead of having a Europe which is going to build fences and kind of build walls, and in which case, of course, the relationship is likely to suffer even more.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ioannis. Ahmet, give us your sense as far as the structure and how the society understands this process. The political parties, are they pro-European? And the new political leaders that came up after the local elections are pro-European? So what's the directions?
Right, thank you. I mean, Ioannis gave an example about the public opinion. I mean, I just checked some of the survey results regarding how the Turkish society has been looking for the possible EU relations and the being a member of the EU. And according to the latest Metropolitan survey company, 69% of the Turkish population is very favorable for EU. But if you ask me to define beyond the level of society, to define like Turkey with a one word, not only about EU, but precisely for EU, for many different topics, I can say that Turkey is a textbook definition of an oxymoron right now. I'll give a couple of examples, quite very, very senior figures regarding Turkey, their statements. On the 23rd September 2023, President Erdogan underlined that if there will be a necessity, we can easily stop talking with Turkey. This is the president. On the March 2024, Foreign Secretary Hakan Fidan says that the EU process is very important for us, but we are really fed up with the unnecessary demands of some countries. We are ready to stop. Okay, some positive, some negative. Mehmet Kemal Bozay, the Director for EU Affairs and the Deputy Secretary, Deputy Minister of Turkish Affairs. 8th of April 2024, political actors shouldn't talk too much about the enlargements since the people of Turkey feel as a part of EU. So, I mean, you asked about the dance. What I've been seeing that in Turkey right now, not about society, but in the state level, their hands is going right, the other one is going left, so there is a catastrophe with all of these dances. But I think this is because of the Turkey's current state or a political structure, because, I mean, also this is a big issue for not only EU, for any external structure components on the powers. I mean, in Turkey, there is a regime, right? And the regime has very different layers. It includes Erdogan, in a very neo-patrimonial understanding, his close family and some relatives, some businessmen, so on and so forth. The second one is that, what we know that since the beginning of 2002, Erdogan's regime, Erdogan is a very capable political actor to establish unconventional, unofficial, interest-based partnerships. And within these circumstances, within the layer of the regime, there are nationalists at the same time. So if he would like to speak with Turkey, now this is another division, Turkey and Türkiye, I'm insist to use Turkey anyway. I mean, who is the real responsible to speak about Turkey? To come back to your question about the relatively new actors and their positionalities. I mean, after the local election, yes, I think we are at the very beginning of the end of an Erdogan period, but likewise, many popular...
Excuse me, how many times have we said that? What's the difference now?
I mean, you may say that many different times, but this is the first time I'm using it as an experienced Turkish citizen.
What's the turning point?
This is like, I mean, there are lots of turning points in terms of the society's structure. I mean, the beyond the definition of the shrinking economic conditions, so on and so forth. But let me conclude my sentences. I mean, we have been all watching Netflixes, right? And I think very popular Netflix series, episodes are around 45 minutes. But the last episode will be around 1 hour and 10. We are in the last episode. So you can be sure about it. So it might be the last time we're saying that. And for the replacements, for, I mean, post-Erdogan periods, the current actors seems that they can understand EU and EU's importance for Turkey, but the problem is that, as your question, how many times we're saying that it's an end of an Erdogan period, or all the problems is accusing about the Turkish society, Turkish structure. My question is that in here, whether the EU's actors is capable to understand what is going on in Turkey, what will be the next chapter will be about Turkey. I think this is the problem. Because when we are talking about Turkey-EU's problematic love affair, we are only accusing EU. We are only accusing Turkey. What about like 2007, 2008, during the Sarkozy and the Merkel period? I mean, EU also sometimes underestimating the capabilities of Turkey at the same time. So it is indeed important to understand the Turkish society, current structure of the regime. It's not very easy. And the qualifications and their differences, the newcomers' differences, I mean, Ekrem İmamoğlu, Mansur Yavaş, Özgür Özel, so on and so forth. But also it is it is very important to understand what the EU also did in the previous times, because we are.
Okay. Angelina will give an answer for this.
This wasn't a question, actually, right?
I'm very struck by the 69%. It's even better than I thought, because we somehow look at 50% in terms of Turkish population in favor of Turkey becoming member of the EU, or at least being close to the EU, etc. This is even, it's good, of course, it's very good. And you know very well, I don't say anything new. If you take it within the EU, unfortunately, public opinion about the Turkey being member of the EU, public opinion is really low. I don't have the very latest figures, but it is not good, right? And you don't see today European political leaders for every country to actually advocate for Turkey's membership so strongly, as we, for instance, many do now for Ukraine. Ukraine has huge support within the European Union. Actually, we have 10. Let's talk accession for real. We have the 10 lined up. And in fact, the focus is mainly on Ukraine, Moldova. Today it's on Bosnia-Herzegovina. But it's really many of those who are on paper lined up, and then very much at the very end is Turkey, it does not get the attention of the leaders. Now, we can analyze why that is, but I think it is a real issue, because that train of enlargement is going high speed. It's going high speed. With all the questions around it, it is one of the top priorities. You mentioned a few, rightly so, for this current commission, but also for the future commission. It is enlargement. There's no doubt about it. So does Turkey want to be on the train or not? Or as you rightly say, I'm the first one always to look at what the EU doesn't do well. I have no problem with that at all to discuss, but it's really how can you match that together? And the public opinion is an issue here. This is what I wanted to say. It's not getting better, so we have to find a way. But if I may, just one point. Let's go back to history. What, 6 years ago? When was Turkey actually when was that whole accession process actually put in the freezer? It was because of rule of law. It was because of the internal developments in Turkey. Because, an accession country has very stringent parameters against which the EU ticks boxes. Now, that is the real point. Today we talk, of course, a lot, and rightly so also, but about Cyprus, about the relations with Greece, the relations in the region, or everything you mentioned, rightly so. But it's a lot about the internal developments in Turkey. So my question, just to finish on this, would also be back to Ankara. If there is a space for internal reforms, right, is that something that can actually help to turn the freezing part where we are today? Because that has to be on the table. There is no way of leaving the internal situation as it is today. Again, this is not about us interfering directly. It is for Turkey leadership to decide, but the people really of Turkey they all look at the European Union, many do, sorry, not all, to help increase that space.
Yeah, but it's not a black and white, it's a complicated situation.
It's never black and white.
Of course, but since you mentioned democracy and institutions, at the same time we have Turkey with a different path from other Europeans, the West, Ukraine, Russia, Cyprus, another matter of long series of issues. So what steps should be taken to address these challenges?
But we have a very intense dialogue and work going on with Turkey on all these points, on the fact that the alignment is only 8%. How is that? What can be done? What can be done better? The sanction circumventions. We have our envoy going to Turkey many times. The relations we have between the different ministries and institutions to discuss the issues really in details. Even the whole trade irritants part, we never stopped talking. There is no modernized customs union today, but that doesn't mean that the work is not ongoing around it. So basically what I would believe, what's needed is deepening and acceleration on that part, but it needs the political signals from both sides, political signal from the European Union, but also from the leadership in Ankara to say, okay, let's accelerate. There's the toolbox with Turkey for the EU is endless. It's huge, it's big. There is no partner in the world where we have such a big toolbox of work we can do.
I'm very keen to listen to Nilgun's take on the partnership. You mentioned that it's not the strong partnership that we all think. What is your views?
Well, the elephant in the room regarding strategic partnership is that there is lack of mutual trust between the parties, between Turkey and the EU. Yes, Turkey is important for the EU because of its geostrategic position, because of its NATO membership, and because of its leverage in the southern neighborhood of the EU. But Turkey's unpredictable foreign policy, because the main determinant of Turkey's foreign policy is unfortunately domestic politics, the unpredictable foreign policy weakens the geostrategic importance of Turkey. And if you look at the past, recent past, EU stopped inviting Turkey to unofficial meetings, gimmick meetings of the EU foreign ministers. And when you look at the action plan prepared by Borrell's team, that will hopefully be tackled in the next week's EU summit, you will see that, that's the sentence from the action plan, more or less. Turkey will be invited to gimmick meetings if there is a need, type of wording. And I think the action plan puts the cart before the horse, because it says that if Turkey's alignment rate increases with the common foreign and security policy of the EU, there will be a dialogue with Turkey on foreign policy. I mean, without any serious dialogue, how can Turkey's alignment in the common foreign and security policy be realized? I will be a bit blunt. I think the way European Union sees Turkey, it's an important neighbor for the reasons I just referred to, that needs to be contained, that needs to be engaged with. That's where our position is from the viewpoint of EU, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Ioannis, it's interesting to see Greece's point, how Greece stands on these current affairs, the current situation between the European Union and Turkey?
Well, Greece's membership of the European Economic Community.
And there is a rapprochement between Athens and Ankara.
Right now, yes, there is, and the hope is that the town turning into a rapprochement potentially is going to provide new space for the improvement of EU-Turkey relations on a number of areas. I think it's important here to stress a very big change on Greece's view of EU-Turkey relations that has shaped this relationship for the last decades. Greece, like in the end of the last century, Greece decided that Turkey's EU membership is to the benefit of Greece because it would provide an opportunity for the political and economic transformation of Turkey. So Turkey would be a better, more reliable neighbor, and a neighbor that would share values with Greece and the European Union, and this would allow the resolution of the bilateral disputes and the Cyprus problem. So in that respect, the Greek foreign policy elites, the Greek governments, decided that they need to invest on that relationship, and in the process, the hope was that the disputes would be resolved. Unfortunately, this didn't happen. And it didn't happen at let's say, when the relationship between Turkey and the EU was at the very best moment, like in the early 2000s. There was a big missed opportunity back then on this. And then, for the reasons we've already discussed, Turkey's decreasing commitment to EU membership, Europe's rising internal problems that had a reflection on the relationship as well, then Turkey's foreign policy shifted, and then Turkey appeared to be more ambitious. And a new discussion about Turkey's strategic autonomy emerged. Mm-hmm. A discussion also pointing that Turkey needs the EU less than the EU needs Turkey, which I disagree in person, but that's a discussion that's quite prominent in Turkey.
With Cyprus, it's a different case. Mm-hmm. The government in Cyprus has a different position towards the relation.
On this, I mean, I think still, of course, the resolution of the Cyprus problem is a priority there, but I do think that even the Republic of Cyprus government thinks that bringing Turkey closer to the European Union is the main tool for the resolution of the Cyprus problem. But apart from that, as the relationship has declined, then Greece is in search of a new framework for the relationship. So if Turkey's EU membership is no longer a carrot that can be offered to Turkey for the resolution of the bilateral disputes, how can this relationship be reframed? And of course, there are questions about Turkey's even Western orientation that have become relevant in recent years. Turkey's NATO membership, all these discussions about Ukraine, like sitting on the fence during the invasion, or raising objections to Finland's or Sweden's membership that appeared as weakening the cohesion of the alliance. So in that respect, I think that what has transpired in the last couple of months on Greek-Turkish relations has to do with the fact that there was a deterioration of the relationship like a few years ago with focus on the Eastern Mediterranean, and the two sides realized that they need to work on preventing an escalation, and even if they cannot agree on resolving the big outstanding issues, maintaining a process of dialogue and communication is something important in its own means.
Let's move towards to wrap up. Let's go with the last round, talking about the future, starting with Ahmet. What will be the future? What can we do now? Where can we go from here?
Well, difficult question. I mean, if you're talking about a country like a very dynamic and complicated country, likewise Turkey, I mean, even it's hard to guess what's going to happen tomorrow. But like about the engagement, I think Turkey and EU, I mean, personally, I can't see a bright future about the formal membership for Turkey. I mean, there are lots of problematic issues, likewise Cyprus, so on and so forth, and these are quite great borders for two structures. But on the other hand, they have to find, likewise Nilgun underlined, I mean, I'm definitely sharing her ideas. I mean, EU and Turkey should understand each other quite deeply and truly, and mutual trust is a must, because, I mean, geostrategically and geopolitically, Turkey has been occupying in a very important situation, and EU has many different interests in the Middle East, in the East Mediterranean, so on and so forth. So in these circumstances, they need Turkey. On the other hand, in terms of population and economy, they need Turkey as well. But, I mean, regarding the formal membership, I don't know whether there is another single particular country has Turkey's structure. Right now, as of today, more than 7 million Turkish diaspora members are living in outside Turkey's territories, and more than 5 million is in the continental Europe. So this means that, in a very theoretical way, Turkey is a part of the EU. Today Erdogan, tomorrow maybe İmamoğlu, maybe someone else, has a capacity to control, to affect the streets of Berlin, Paris, so on and so forth, not only via diasporas, but also transnational state apparatus. I mean, can you tell me any other country that has more than 1,500 mosques in one particular country? And this is a state-oriented country. So Turkey, I mean, I mean, I might be the youngest among the audiences, but I mean, my age would pass like whether Turkey be an EU member or not. Turkey is a structure of EU, and today, exactly today, is the 74th anniversary of the Turkey's membership of the European Council. So it might be older than Greece or many other European countries. Council of Europe, sorry. But like, it's one of the structures of the Europe. So this is, I mean, historically, and I can't rely on the surveys as well, as you said, but like more than 50%, it's still a scientifically significant number, is a pro-EU. This means that, I mean, it's like with a nail. It's hard to spread these two structures. So, I mean, instead of punching each other, it is for the future. I mean, it would be better for everyone to shake hands gently.
Ioannis, both sides, can they work, both sides, towards fostering a more cooperative partnership?
No, I think there is an opportunity, always. There are a number of issues where progress is easier than others. And we can start with this, like there's discussion on visa liberalization, there's discussion on expanding the customs union agreement, which has been a successful overall agreement and remains the kind of the pillar of the relationship at the moment. But of course, this depends very much on the political will, first in Turkey, I have to say, and then secondary in the European Union. So in a sense, it is important for us Europeans to look into domestic political developments. And I think it's also very important to keep an eye into what happens in Turkish civil society, find a way to have a dialogue and communicate with non-state actors within Turkey, because if there is going to be a dramatic shift to the benefit, to a better relationship between the EU and Turkey in the coming years, it will have to come from this segment of the society. So in that
but
respect,
since there is no political will, the state doesn't promote this kind of
No, I agree. But if there is a political change in Turkey, and then we may speculate that there will be an opportunity for acceleration or improvement of the relationship, then the European Union will need the political and social actors within Turkey for this change to be realized.
Nilgun, shortly, are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic and I'm pessimistic. I agree with what Ioannis just said, but instead of visa liberalization, I think we can start with visa facilitation for certain groups like students, businessmen, etc. First of all, I think EU should give up to associate Turkey with Erdogan. The recent local elections show the otherwise. I mean, and not only in the most conservative towns in Turkey, also in the most conservative neighborhoods of Istanbul, the opposition won. So, I mean, EU should pay more attention to what's going on in Turkey. At the moment, both sides support a transactional relationship. Turkey supports, the administration in Turkey supports a transactional relationship without strings attached. I mean, even a transactional relationship should be norm-based. If there would be a change in the stance of the current government or if opposition comes to power, I think they should first prepare a roadmap for democratic consolidation in Turkey. And when they are implementing that plan, they should this time, Turkey should put forward, design a strategy for cooperation with the EU, like a customs union modernization, visa facilitation, and the cooperation on refugee issue can be constituents of that. And if Turkey can take significant steps for democratic consolidation in the country, then Turkey can bring up the accession process again. And EU should give up excluding Turkey on an identity basis. The next day after the local elections in Turkey, Manfred Weber, the president of the European People's Party in the European Parliament, tweeted that, I mean, Turkey is an important strategic partner, but Turkey can never become a full member. This stance should be given up.
That's it. So, Elena, are you optimistic about the future?
I think we have to separate. I mean, it's clear from this discussion that there are several tracks of the future in EU-Turkey relations. There's enlargement, there's trade with the agreement, there is the strategic partnership, defense, geopolitics, and migration. And I think the future of each of those will depend to different degrees on the state of Turkey's democracy and institutional reforms and human rights and civil society, but also to other degrees on neighborly relations and security relations. So I think we may see these different tracks move at different speeds. I'm optimistic that some of them will move fast, but I'll keep the mystery of which they are.
Angelina?
I'm neither optimistic nor pessimistic. I need to be realistic in my work. But what I see for the next few months is, because there will be so much focus now on the elections in the EU, of course, we need to wait for the results. We have to see what is the new European leadership as well, as you mentioned, Parliament elsewhere. So let's not, I hope really there will not be any sort of irritant, big irritant or escalation elsewhere, because we have too much on our plate for now. So I think this is just, but we all agree on that. And probably there will be another moment after summer where we can try to revitalize, because for the moment I don't see enough space there. It was mentioned, you need the political will to create the political space. I think a lot can be done, EU-Turkey, a lot is possible. And my last word also for the Greek audience here, I think now the track Greece-Turkey it's a good track. It needs to be fed further. You see on both sides that there is an interest to do so. This is hugely important. Cyprus is also usually important, yet there is no track for the moment, really, although we will support the UN personal envoy in her work, for no doubt, but you need a track of talks and a table. I'll stop here because the seconds are counting, but let us have another rendezvous on this. Maybe I really like this panel, by the way, thank you very much, but to have another comeback on,
maybe
on
next
where
year.
we are. Yeah,
Next year, Delphi. Thank you so much for your participation. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention.